Hi, this is Esther with Discover Your Origins. This is a Research with Me video, and we are working on Essary family descendants. In the previous video, we worked on Savilla Essary. We made a few discoveries, made a couple of updates to her profile, and today we're going to look at her husband, Charles Smith. And I haven't looked at him hardly at all ahead of time, and so we're going to just jump right in. And so let's move forward to Charles Jackson Smith and see what we can see on him. Now, I haven't done anything on my ancestry tree, so I'm hoping there's some good record hints. Oh, there's only 2. Well, we'll see what we can do. All right, so first off, we have that he is born in Ireland, July 1865. So he is a little bit older, about 10 years older than Savilla, and he dies in Cordova, Walker, Alabama in 1924. And so Savilla was a widow for what, 26 years? That's a long time. And let's just see, we've got 12 sources for him on Family Search. And he's connected to Peter Smith and Catherine in Family Search. And so we'll need to take a look at his parents and see what the evidence is for that. And then on Ancestry, they're suggesting that his parents are Julia Smith and Amanda. So I'm definitely going to have to look and see who's right. The parental hints on Ancestry, there's no guarantee those are right. Those are based off of other people's trees. And so you do have to have a little bit of skepticism. You got to do the work to make sure it's right. So, all right, before I get too far, let's jump into the hints on Ancestry and see what we've got here. All right, so we've got a New York, U.S. arriving passenger and crew list for Charles Smith coming in from France in 1867, which would make him 2 years old. We'll have to look at that and see if there's a country of origin other than France. Yeah, I'm not sure on that. And then we've got a newspaper article, which could very well be him. The family was living in Tuscaloosa part of the time, but I don't really know for sure. So we're going to just say maybe on that. And I don't have a newspapers.com subscription, so I can't look at that. But one thing that we could do is go and look at the census. So on Family Search, I'm assuming there's some census records. Let's see, I've got some attached to him already as well on Ancestry. We want to look at these census records for any immigration information, and I think I want to start with the 1920 first. So let's go and look at that and see. Okay. All right, so here he is, Charles Smith, 54 years old, and then it says year of immigration unknown, naturalized unknown. Okay, that doesn't mean that he was not naturalized, but he may never have been naturalized. And if he came as a baby, he may not have known when he came over. So that's a bit of a mystery. Let's just verify that it says Ireland. Yep, it says Ireland, and he spoke Irish. Okay, and his parents are also Ireland and spoke Irish. All right, let's go back and we'll look at the 1910 census. We'll view the image. Okay, I don't know that there's very much immigration information on the 1910. Most likely 1920, and if he'd lived to 1930, we would have gotten more. So let's see, Ireland is where he says he was born. Here we go, citizenship. Year of immigration to the United States, 1866, and whether naturalized or alien. Okay, so he says in 1910 that he's an alien. So he was not naturalized as of 1910, and as of 1920, it's unknown. The reason this is important is because we want to find immigration or naturalization paperwork, because that will give us hopefully some more information. And so this says he came over in 1866. If he was born in 1865 or so, he was a baby when he came over. So, all right. We'll look in the 1900. I'm not sure if that will give us very much more immigration information. I'm thinking not, but let's just double check. Here's Charles Smith again. July 1865. It was when he was born in Ireland. His parents are from Ireland. Okay. Immigration year 1868. 31 years, and he's an alien. Okay. So we have a range of immigration years of 1866 to 1868. It's hard to know where he came in to the country. If he had been naturalized, we might have gotten a little bit more information on that, but it doesn't look like he was naturalized. That doesn't mean he didn't fill out any naturalization paperwork at all, though. He could have filed an intent to become naturalized and then just never completed the process. And so we just want to keep an open mind on that. So 1866 to 1868 for immigration. Okay. All right. I'm curious on these parents here to see what this person says. 1795, Ireland. It's on that arriving passenger list. Okay. Well, let's go look at it. I don't know. Okay, if his mother was born in 1806 in Ireland, she would have been 65 years old when she had him. So that's probably not correct. That would make his father too old as well to be his father, his biological father. So let's look at this document and just see what this tells us. So 1866 does fall into the range of when he would have come in, but he's Irish, not French. So let's see if we can find him. That's a little bit blurry. Okay, here is, okay, we've got Julius Smith, 62. He's a doctor. His wife, I'm assuming wife, Amanda, 58. Then we have a Leon, who is 2, and Charles, who is 1. So I would not think those would be parents. I would think they could possibly be grandparents or some other relatives. That's quite an age gap there for parents and then such young children. But this Leon here could be a brother to Charles. Okay, let's see what we've got for the columns here. Occupation, country in which they are traveling, the country to which, I'm not sure what that says. First class. Doctor. It just says they're coming to America. It doesn't give any more than that. I mean, that is a good match. It's hard to say for certain if this is him, though. Charles Smith is a very common name, and there could have been multiple Charles Smiths that came in to New York. It says Ellis Island. But from France. So if he was born in Ireland, would you have gone to France first and then come to America? I'm going to look at this record collection and just do some more searching. So I'm going to open it in a new tab. Okay, we'll search the card catalog. Okay, so there's this one that's New York, US arriving passenger and an immigration list. And then here's the Castle Garden one. So let's open those up and do a little bit more searching. Okay. Here are a bunch Charles Smith's. Here's this one, born about 1864, arrived 18th of October 1866. Their departure port was London, England. So he's 2 years old. That is something that would be considered as a possibility. Even this one from where it says his birth year is 1862, arrival 1866. Okay, here's Liverpool, England, and Queenstown, Ireland. Ethnicity Irish. Arrives 19th of July, 1866. Born about 1863. That one looks really promising. All right, let's look at that one. I don't know if this is gonna tell us too much. Let's see. Ireland coming to the United States. They had storage, or is that steerage? Steerage. Okay. Let's see if we can find Charles Smith. He should be with somebody because he's 2-year-old. Okay. Here he is. Okay. Here's a Charles Smith, male. What does that say? I'm not sure what that says. It says child right there. You have Mary Smith, a Catherine, and a Charles, but the person that's right above them is Ellen Brick and Mary Carson. Huh. Mary Smith is a child as well, coming from Ireland in 1866. Spinster. Laborer? Is that what that? Laborer? Okay, so it's a little bit confusing. Charles Smith, 3 years old, male. Not sure what that says. If you have any ideas, put your suggestion in the comments below. I think it means laborer. Labr. Why that wouldn't be a child, I don't know. He's 3 years old. And then we've got Catherine and Mary Smith, and those three are together, and they don't appear to have any parents. You know, if this spinster, Ellen Brick, is what that looks like, was their guardian, this particular record seems the most promising. Although it's hard to say that it's a match because we still don't have enough information. But it seems more promising than the one from France, because why would someone from Ireland go to France first? It doesn't seem like that would be a good fit. So there's like 16 results here. I'm gonna just kind of see if there's anything else. Yeah, this one from Ireland seems the most promising. I think that might be a pretty good chance that that's the right one. But like I said, we have to have some other evidence to know with any certainty. So what I'm going to do is save this to my shoebox on Ancestry. So it's just like a temporary holding place, so I can find that again without having to search for it again. All right. So let's look at the records that we have for Charles on Family Search. And we've got 12 record hints here. We don't have any siblings for him. Let's look at the record sources and see if that gives us any clues. So we have no immigration information on here or any evidence that these are his parents. No sources. No sources. It says his mother is from Germany. That is probably not right, because we know from the census that both of his parents are born in Ireland. And that is consistent through the 3 censuses that we looked at. So let's see. We don't have an 1870 or an 1880 census for him. do we? We don't. So there's definitely some looking around that we could do. All right, I'm gonna see if we can't find a death record for him. 1924. We should start seeing death records. There wasn't full compliance until a little bit later, I think, for death records, but let's just try. We've got 18 pages. Charles Smith is such a hard name because it's so common, and so it makes it very difficult. So what I'm going to do is do some more looking and sort through these records, and then we may try to look at some other things. Okay, so I struck out on the Alabama death records. I then went to MyHeritage and searched for newspapers because MyHeritage has some Alabama newspapers, but I didn't really find anything there. I do want to see if I can find a Charles Smith in the 1870 and 1880 US Census. So I think that might be my next step. So let's go and search some more records. It's not going to give us immigration information, but maybe it will just help provide a little bit more insight of where he was living. Oh, let's try looking in the 1880 US Census and see if he's counted there. Okay, so I think I'm striking out on looking at the census records. I mean, he could have been anywhere in 1870 and 1880. At some point, he ends up in Alabama. So, you know, it's hard to say if he immigrated into the U.S. from Ireland. The most likely landing place would be New York, or it could be Philadelphia, or it could be New Orleans. It could be any number of places where ships landed. And so it's hard to say for sure where he came into the country. We have a general idea of 1866 to 1868, which helps to narrow down the possibilities. All right, I want to go and look at the Family Search Research Wiki and look for some naturalization and immigration paperwork. So now he reported that he was still an alien in the census, and so he may never have naturalized. So let's go to Alabama genealogy. And this is the quickest way to find record collections on a specific type uh, of record collection. So we've got immigration and immigration, depending on whether you're leaving or coming. So we've got all of these. See here, we've got Atlantic ports, Gulf ports, and Great Lakes passenger lists, Mobile ship news, border crossings, Alabama, U.S. arriving passenger list. That's 1904, though. That's too late. Atlantic ports, Gulf Coast, and Great Lakes. Well, too early. Passenger lists. Okay. So that's a possibility of a record collection that could be looked at. Cultural groups. We got Germans, Italians, and Russians, but not Irish. Though there were a lot of Irish that came into Alabama, so hard to say. Okay, we got passport records. All right, I'm going to go to naturalization and citizenship papers. Okay, Alabama U.S. District Court naturalization records, 1855 to 1969. Index to alien case files. That's too late. Alabama naturalization records collection and indexes. All right, we're going to look through these and just see if maybe he started the process. And oh, here's district courts of the Southeast. So there's another one. So I'm just going to very quickly do some quick searches in these and see if we hit anything. It's very difficult without more information, but we'll just see if we can find anything. So I probably will fast forward, but yeah, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, so I did some searching and there is some naturalization paperwork for people named Charles Smith, born in Ireland. Uh, Hard to say if they are him or not. Again, we'd have to go through and look at each of these. This one is interesting, but probably not him because he was married by this point. 1897, he would have been married for a few years in Alabama. And it's not to say that he couldn't have traveled to New York. He could have. It was not unusual to travel to a district court to do naturalization paperwork. And since he never was naturalized, he could have filed the intent or declaration to become a citizen and just never completed the process. And yeah, so it's hard to say if this would be him. It seems like it's a possibility. Oh, occupation journalist. Okay, we know it's not him because he was a farmer. So anyway, that may take some digging. And so I'm probably not going to go very much further with this at this point. He very well could have filled out some paperwork and it just is going to take some digging. And so there were lots of possibilities there. And so you'd have to make a list of all of those possibilities and check every single one of them to see if there's a possible match. My main goal with identifying Essary descendants is to identify Essary descendants. And Charles Jackson Smith is just somebody who married an Essary. And so I like to learn as much as I can of the spouses of the descendants and connect them to their parents. But if I am not able to do that, I just kind of move on because I've got so many other things that I want to look at. And so in this case, I'm probably going to have to just leave him here. However, I am tempted to remove him from these parents because these parents have absolutely no sources, and there's no sources that link him to these parents at all. And so I think I'm going to probably disconnect them, especially this Catherine, where she says she's born in Russia. There's no sources. It doesn't make any sense. And so I'm going to just disconnect him just to remove any possible confusion that these are his parents. And then we'll see what we do next. So you do have to write a reason statement. So I'll do that now. All right. So the immigration record suggestion that I had on my ancestry tree. So this passenger ship list that's on my ancestry tree is a suggestion. I'm probably just gonna put maybe because honestly I don't think it's right, but I don't want to lose it either. So I just am going to put in the undecided category and just kind of keep working. This Julius Smith and Amanda could be his parents. I don't really know. I mean, I don't know. There's not any records here to really support it either, and it doesn't seem to make sense. So I'm just going to keep moving on with looking at Essary family descendants and continue working to find more descendants. And to really figure out Charles Jackson Smith, we need to go through each of the possible Charles Smiths that came in on passenger ships. The one that I found is a possibility. I think is probably the most likely one, but hard to say with any certainty. And so it's going to be a little bit of a mystery. This also may be a case where DNA may have to be a factor because we don't have enough information to connect him to his parents unless the family has some other information about where he might have come from. Because he didn't get naturalized, as far as we know, we don't have any point of origin for him. And so with a common name like that, it gets more difficult. So Charles Smith and Savilla Essary's descendants should probably do DNA testing to see if they can't figure out his origins. In particular, why DNA testing may be helpful in narrowing down uh, parents or grandparent. And so I'm going to leave that there. And I'm not sure yet who I'm going to look at next. I've started working on Reppy, and we've got all these children to look at, and we may look at one of them, or we may look at one of Savilla's siblings. We're still working through Samuel Jackson and Sarah Meig's children, and the next one looks like it might be Jonathan Jackson. So stay tuned. If you're interested in following the Essary family story and learning more about the Essary family and watching more content like this, be sure to click the subscribe button. I hope that was helpful, taking a look at immigration paperwork and trying to learn a little bit more. Unfortunately, we couldn't solve this mystery today, but we did learn a little bit more about Charles Jackson, at least through the census and when he came in. And I hope that was helpful. We'll see you next time.